This evening, we don't have a young person from the schools to lead the pledge, so I decided we'd have a young person from the audience. So we've asked Ms. Sims. I can't been yet. I want to do colors, please. Since she's come back with us. Superintendent Mr. Phil,
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We're not going to take your picture. All right.
I brought Patrick Brown with me, my mom. My mom, Miss Miller.
So it is my great honor to now ask that we have our newly elected board members sworn in and give their oath of office. So, Mr. Otterman, you're first on the list. Did you bring anyone in to swear you in?
No.
Okay. Judge, would you mind? Is that
Yeah,
okay?
absolutely.
You have your oath here somewhere? It should be right there. Thank you, Judge.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Ohio, that you will perform faithfully the duties as a member of the Board of Education of the Akron City School District, Summit County, Ohio, to the best of your ability and in accordance with the laws now in effect and hereinafter to be enacted during your continuance in said office and until your successor is elected and qualified?
Absolutely.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Walsh. Join me, please, here.
Actually, I have Judge Hensel.
Thank you.
Debbie, do you solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Ohio, and that you will perform faithfully the duties as a member of the Board of Education of the Akron City School District, Summit County, Ohio, to the best of your ability and in accordance with the laws now in effect and hereinafter enacted during the continuance in said office and until your successor is elected and duly qualified?
I do.
Congratulations.
Our re-elected board members, Mr. Miller.
And Mr. Jim Larry here.
Raise your right hand. Timothy Miller, do you solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Ohio, and that you will perform faithfully the duties as a member of the Board of Education of the Akron City School District, Summit County, Ohio, to the best of your ability and in accordance with laws now in effect and hereinafter to be enacted during your continuance in said office and until your successor is elected and qualified?
I do.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
We've got the future students of Akron Public Schools here in attendance, which is always a wonderful thing. Do you solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Ohio, and that you will faithfully perform the duties as member of the Board of Education of the Akron City School District, Summit County, Ohio, to the best of your ability and in accordance with the laws now in effect and hereafter to be enacted during your continuance in said office and until your successor is elected and qualified? Congratulations.
What we're going to do now is we're going to move, or I'm going to make a motion, have us make a motion to move into executive session. We will leave, but before we do so, if those who were just sworn in would like to take photos with their families ahead of, before we go, so they don't have to wait, we would be happy to wait for that while you go ahead and do that. So what I need is a motion pursuant to Ohio Revised Code 121.22G1 for the board to adjourn into executive session for the purpose of considering an appointment of a public employee or official of the school district.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Alexander?
Yes.
Mrs. Mansfield?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Otterman?
Yes.
Reverend Walker?
Yes.
Ms. Walsh?
Yes.
Thank you.
So what we're going to do is the board is going to move into the side room. So if you want to take some pictures with your families, go ahead and do that. And when you're ready, move into the room adjoining. That way we don't have to make everybody get up and move. All right? Thank you. We are back in regular session, 6:04. All right. So, all right, the next order of business is the filling of the board seat vacated by Veronica Sims. There is a resolution attached for board members, if you wanted to take a look at that. So I would need a motion for that resolution and nomination. Do you want to do that, or would you want me to?
I'll nominate Patrick Bravo for the position.
I'll second that.
Moved and properly seconded. Any discussion regarding
Is there any other nominations that can be brought forth at this time?
We would take one motion at a time, but once we vote them in.
You have a motion and a second, so you call the vote
We would vote.
after discussion.
So there can be discussion first. All right, hearing none, roll call please.
Mrs. Mansfield?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Otterman?
No.
Reverend Walker?
Yes.
Ms. Walsh?
Yes.
Mr. Alexander?
Yes.
All right. Mr. Bravo, would you like to stand up to be sworn in?
Yes.
You're going to change it, or do you want me to do it? How rogue will travel.
You'll get to meet him if you work so much today.
Oh, thank you.
What's your role? Do you solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Ohio, and that you will perform faithfully the duties as a member of the Board of Education of the Akron City School District, Summit County, Ohio, to the best of your ability and in accordance with the laws now in effect and hereinafter to be enacted during your continuance in said office, and until your successor is elected and qualified, effective immediately and until December the 31st, 2017.
I will.
All right, congratulations.
Excuse me.
Who gets that for you? Oh, you're
Oh, and mail. All right. The next order of business is the election of the president for the next year, and the floor is open for nominations.
I move that the Honorable Bruce Alexander would serve as president for the next year.
Second.
Moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Otterman?
Yes.
Reverend Walker?
Yes.
Ms. Walsh?
Yes.
Mr. Alexander?
Yes.
Mrs. Mansfield?
Yes. All right, start moving.
I'm sorry.
Oh,
Sorry, Mr. Bravo. Thank you. On all other votes.
This is a lot of movement.
I know you even have it there to remind
All
me.
right, I'm gonna put my stuff
Does he have to be sworn in before? Okay.
Okay, so I guess first order of business for me is we need to make a motion, if we want, to elect a vice president.
I would like to nominate Patrick Bravo as vice president.
Second.
Been moved to second. Question?
Take the roll.
Roll call.
Mr. Ottoman.
Yes.
Reverend Walker.
Yes.
Ms. Walsh.
Yes.
Mr. Alexander.
Yes.
Mrs. Mansfield.
Yes.
Mr. Miller.
Yes.
Mr. Bravo.
Yes.
Thank you.
I'm feeling left out of the meeting.
I've been here for 4 years, 50 years.
It's your seat and you're not changing.
I'm not changing.
Mr. Bravo.
Until next year.
For President Dr.
I've got it. I've got it.
Do you need it? I still need it. He has to deal with it.
You know, while Bruce's family is coming up, I just want to take a moment, for those of you that don't know me, I'm Linda Tito's, who I serve as judge in the Summit County Juvenile Court, and we obviously do a lot of work very closely with the Akron Public Schools, and I want to thank you for being such wonderful partners and working together to make our community a better place for kids. And I know for those of you that serve on the Board of Education, it can often be a thankless job. You're really on the front lines. We appreciate so much everything you do for our children, and I just wanted to extend my thanks to all of you. And for those of you that are willing to take on the extra responsibility of an office, I know that's a great undertaking as well. So we appreciate that from the community as well. So with that being said, do you solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Ohio, and that you will perform faithfully the duties as president of the Akron Board of Education to the best of your ability and in accordance with the rules and regulations of the Board of Education and laws now in effect and hereinafter to be enacted during your continuance in said office and until your successor is elected and qualified?
I do.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I'll do the kiss again.
Look at that one on camera. Okay. Do you solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Ohio, and that you will perform faithfully the duties as Vice President of the Akron Board of Education to the best of your ability and in accordance with the rules and regulations of the Board of Education and the laws now in effect and hereinafter to be enacted during your continuance in said office and until your successor is elected and qualified?
I will.
Congratulations.
Before we move on, I just want to say one thing. I want to thank Judge Theodosia for coming and swearing all of us in. I know she was here to swear one or two of us in, but she did more work than she was asked to do. So we want to appreciate her and thank you for coming and swearing us in and being here for us.
My pleasure. Thank you for the honor.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so the next order of business, what we will do is we will give committees and committee assignments, I should say. And so what we will have is the Legal, Contract, and Board Policy Committee. That will consist of Mrs. Walsh and Mr. Ottoman. And Finance and Capital Management Committee will consist of Tim Miller and Patrick Bravo. The Instructional and Policy Student Achievement will consist of, will be headed by Reverend Walker and Lisa Mansfield. The State of Ohio OSBA appoints a trustee, and that has been Reverend Walker, and the alternate will be Lisa Mansfield. They have also appointed a liaison for the Urban School District Advisory Network Committee, which is myself, who is appointed there. And for Q, the Council of Urban Boards of Education, will also be me, since I serve on that committee. Our cluster assignments, or ward assignments, will be Bookdo, which is Ward 3, and Ward 4 would be Mr. Bravo. East, which is Ward 10, would be Mr. Ottoman. Ellett, which is Ward 6, would be Mrs. Walsh. Firestone, which is Ward 8, would be Mrs. Mansfield. Garfield, which is Ward 7, would also be Mr. Bravo, since he is the Vice President. Kenmore, Ward 9, would be Reverend Walker. And North would be Wards 1, 2, and 5, and that would be Mr. Miller. So that would be our cluster assignments. Joint Board. The Joint Board is always consists of the President and Vice President. So myself, as well as Mr. Bravo, will be part of the Joint Board with the City of Akron as President and Vice President. Board member Tim Miller will be on that, as well as Reverend Walker and our, I'm sorry, Lisa, she's alternate?
Yes.
Okay, and Lisa Mansfield will be our alternate. For our APS staff, which is part of the joint board, was Mr. Flesher, and his alternate would be Laura Harrell. Is that correct?
Valerie Mills.
Valerie Mills, I'm sorry. That would be Valerie Mills. Okay, so that will be our committee assignments, our appointments, cluster assignments, and joint board. Any questions? Yes, Mr. Miller?
Just a request. I was wondering if somebody from the administration could send out to each cluster and each ward representative information on our assignments, so maybe we'll get a little more interaction with the clusters and with the city council people.
Okay. Okay. All right, we will be able to do that, Mr. Miller. All right, let's move on. Any other questions? I'm sorry, before we move forward, I don't want to go too fast. Any other questions? Okay, let me back up again. I'm going a little too fast. Mrs. Walsh and Mr. Otterman, you are...
Miss.
I'm sorry, Miss Walsh.
That's my mom, so I just have to get that one.
Okay, Ms. Walsh and Mr. Otterman, you are also free if you want to attend joint board. Anyone can attend, but as far as those sitting at the table, then it will be those individuals' names. All right, to move forward, we'll have community reflections. Any community reflections? Yes.
I mentioned something real quick. Where I work at Weatherby Playhouse, we have a gallery, an art gallery. And for December, our art gallery was provided by the Leggett schools. And by Leggett School, the art teacher led them through the process, and they got to have their artwork displayed. They got to have a reception, and we got to introduce the artists to the audience. For this particular run of shows, we're doing a play called Clybourne Park, and we have, they were so impressed with the Leggett students with their artwork that they've asked the Firestone students to do some pieces. So they'll be on display at the Playhouse. The Playhouse hours are open. You don't have to come to a play. The gallery is free, so you can come and see their art at any time during the run of the next two shows. So I got to get a preview of the art the last couple of days, and it's lovely. So I would invite you to come see. The theme of it, I believe, is family, because if you know the story of Raisin and the Sun and Clybourne Park, they do have a family and a home theme to them. So they did a very nice job with the art, and I really appreciate it.
Great.
Had the opportunity to go to, along with Ms.
No.
Uh,
Sorry, I didn't have you Denise.
The Summit Educational Initiative, the superintendent was there. Lots of students from APS and our administration and staff. I was there for the first portion where Mr. Wes Moore spoke, the author of The Other Wes Moore, and he also spoke at the Ohio School Board Association's Capital Conference. But it was good to see him again and fellowship with him. And then we broke down into groups, with A group, a B group, and we had 5 things that we were to do on a card, which was very interesting. And then after that break, they were to share those 5 things and with the young people. And I read in the paper that they came up with at least 3 things that they felt was very important for the success of our students. And of course, one was, parental involvement and sharing in that, and I forgot what the other 2 were.
It was caring adults, effective education, and the third was safe places.
Maybe a safe place was the third one.
Mr. Miller?
I just want to briefly mention, I was at Bookdale, I think Reverend Walker was there too, for the masonry competition that drew schools from across northeastern Ohio. I did not get to stay to the end, so I do not know who won that, quite honestly, but I think it was interesting. I got to talk to a couple different teachers from different school districts, and some of the school districts are struggling getting students into the masonry programs, and they said it was because it's not technical, that you don't have the technology, if you will, that you have in bricks and mortar building. But we don't appear to have that problem in the Bookdale program, except for I think we almost had too many people wanting to get in, which is a good problem to have, I guess. Hopefully we can work around that problem. But it was interesting, and you think of bricks and mortar, it was interesting watching the kids start to get the base, get everything level. It's just not slopping mortar and bricks together. So there's a lot of technical and time-consuming work to make sure that foundation's built properly. So it was a nice morning.
One of the things along with that the instructor was real concerned about, because they have lots of students, one of the problems is they don't have their driver's license, which means once they've moved through the process and can go out and get mentorships, many of them don't have driver's license. So that prevents them from going out to whatever area so that they can be interns. So one of the things that needs to be factored in as a program is to make sure that they're able, we don't have driver's ed like we used to, but some kind of way to assist and encourage those students to get the driver's license, because he said 1 or 2 that are getting ready to graduate don't have driver's license, so they're not going to be able to use that skill because they're not going to be able to drive. That's the first thing they ask you, have a driver's license, because we need to point you over here, or we want you to intern here. So somehow if that can be factored into the program, that would make it even more successful.
Such a huge expense when you're under
Right.
18 to take those classes.
Mm-hmm.
We all took for granted when we could take them to school.
Right.
I just want to say, and as Reverend Walker said, I attended that Grad Nation, which was a fabulous program. And then we met the next night with with David at a block watch for people from the Lawndale schools. It was closing, and honestly, I thought they reacted very well. I mean, it was at least at that meeting, it was a smooth transition. We'll see what happens this week. But so I thought that was good. And then last Tuesday, we had our new board member orientation, and I want to thank David and Ryan and everyone else, because if I start mentioning all the rest of the names, I'll leave somebody out, and I do not mean to do that. I found it very beneficial, and I really enjoyed it, and I thank you for taking time out of your day to help me get acquainted, so I appreciate that. And then this weekend I went to OSBA new board member training, so I had a lot of new board member trainings, but I found that very satisfying, rewarding too, so thank you. I look forward to it.
Anyone else? I did want to mention one thing, that I did go to Helen Arnold over the break and watch the basketball league there, and it was interesting to see some of the young talent that they had there, but it was also interesting to see parents, and we would love to see the parents involved in the education of their kids, because they're out there, they're participating in sports, that's a good thing, but we still want you to participate more in the educational process for the students as well. The kids seem to have a good time, the coaches are volunteers, and Mr. Early, I believe, is heading that, is doing a good job. He's active, he's involved, energetic, and I don't know where he gets all that energy from, but to be there all day with those young kids and being active with them. But it was a good job. They did a good job there, and it was good to see the kids and what they're learning from the basketball tournament. Okay, let's have communications and reflections.
Mr. President, January has been designated as School Board Recognition Month by the Ohio School Boards Association, which is why we have the poster up. This year's theme is a work of heart. Being an effective school board member, of course, is no easy task, particularly in today's climate of change and challenge. And we all know that school board members need to be knowledgeable about the many complex educational and social issues that our students face along with their families, and carry out initiatives and directives from both the federal and state governments. To face demands of governing our public schools, they give countless hours of personal time. So we honor the contributions and dedication of our own school board members in the Akron Public Schools. These locally elected citizens make decisions that affect, influence, and direct the education of our youth. Everything they do is done with the emphasis on what's best for the children they serve. Thus, the Ohio School Boards Association has provided certificates of appreciation, as they have done every year, for board members' exemplary leadership and service during the past year. So Mr. Alexander, and there's one for Mrs. Mansfield, along with Mr. Miller, Reverend Walker, and Mr. Bravo. I also have certificates for Mrs. Sims, who cut out of here, and Mr. Haas, and we'll make sure that they receive theirs. So I think for all of us around the room, we'd like to say thank you to our board members, and to let you know that we believe you do make a difference in our community for every child every day.
Thank you. Okay, we did have someone to address the board, but they canceled, so therefore we'll move on to the approval of meeting minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and second. Any questions? Roll call.
Mr. Bravo.
Yes.
Reverend Walker.
Yes.
Ms. Walsh.
Abstain?
Mr. Alexander.
Yes.
Mrs. Mansfield.
Yes.
Mr. Miller.
Yes.
Mr. Iyer.
Yes. Okay, superintendent recommendation.
Mr. President, I have before me for your consideration 31 personnel recommendations. These recommendations are in proper form, and I move their approval.
Second.
It's moved and second. Any question? Roll call.
Ms. Walsh.
Yes.
Mr. Alexander.
Yes.
Mrs. Mansfield.
Yes.
Mr. Miller.
Yes.
Mr. Otterman.
Yes.
Reverend Walker.
Yes.
Mr. Bravo.
Yes.
Next, Mr. President, I have before me for your consideration 2 motions and 6 resolutions on the consent agenda. These recommendations are in proper form, and I move their approval.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and second. Question?
Yes,
Question.
thank you. Item number 3, the 7 buses, and I'm sure we can talk about this in Finance Committee as well, but does that put us back somewhere in terms of our replacement schedule? I'm sorry.
It's okay. I'm sorry.
I'm now available.
Yes, that is working on the replacement schedule that we started generating in the 5-year forecast 2 years ago. So this is replacing 7 older buses that are beyond the usual 12 years you should have a bus, and we have at least 2 more years to go through that. This is your number 3.
Okay.
All right?
And Mr. President, that's actually on the Business Affairs recs.
Yes.
I have it written on consent.
No.
My notes are wrong, sorry.
That's all right. So we had a motion and a second. Any other questions on the consent agenda?
Just one on item number 1, I remember reading with, and I read somewhere that the list of students would be in the minutes. Is it actually, is that not is it not an issue of, it's not on this, but I did read it when I was reading something, and then it caused me to question whether that was.
The attached list is in the supporting document, and those are the list of students that you are going to approve to be allowed in lieu. You need to know the name and then the reason for them not being able to be.
No, I understood that, but then I
Okay.
thought I read that that the names would be printed in the minutes, which I thought might not be what we wanted.
You don't have a choice. It's a
Oh, it does, okay.
document, and you need to give it, you have to do it by case by case.
But, okay, I
Alrighty.
didn't know if that was a violation of their privacy or
No,
something.
there's no identifying information other than the student's name and,
Okay.
and the reason as to why we cannot transport.
That's fine,
Any other questions on the consent agenda? Roll call?
Mr. Alexander?
Yes.
Mr. Bravo? Yes. Mrs. Mansfield?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Otterman?
Yes.
Reverend Walker?
Yes.
Ms. Walsh?
yes.
And finally, Mr. President, I have before me for your consideration 8 business affairs recommendations. These recommendations are in proper form, and I move their approval.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved in second. Any question? No question? Roll call?
Mrs. Mansfield?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Otterman? Yes. Reverend Walker?
Yes.
Ms. Welch?
Yes.
Mr. Alexander?
Yes.
Mr. Bravo?
Yes.
Superintendent's report?
The only thing to report is on Wednesday and Thursday at 6:30 this week, I will be at Lawndale and Smith to answer questions from those respective communities regarding the closure of their buildings. I'll have a variety of staff there to answer any questions that could come up.
And we did meet at Sam Salem as well as the other meeting, which went, I think, very well. So we're looking forward to the parent meeting, and I hope the public, as they're listening, will come out and let us know what their concerns are. Because there was a concern when we were leaving the Sam Salem meeting, was concerned about the park, Prentice Park, I believe it is, where they have a lot of their athletic activities for the Kenmore community. So that needs to be taken into account on how we move through the process, as well as the reservoir and other areas as to how we'll best be able to serve that community.
Anything else, Superintendent's report? President's report really is none, but I just want to take this time to thank fellow board members for electing me to serve as your vice president this year. I will do my best to do the best that I can here for the school district, for the community, for APS staff, and most of all, which is most important, is for the students of Akron Public Schools. So again, I'd like to thank all of you for having confidence in me to be the board president this year for Akron Public Schools. Treasurer's report.
No report, thank you.
No report. Any committee reports? Legal. I don't think we have any there. Finance, capital management. Nothing there. Instructional policies. Student achievement. So no committee reports. Any unfinished business? No unfinished business. Any new business? No new business. And I guess we will have to go into executive session for... Okay. All right. Pursuant to Ohio Revised Code Section 121.22 G1, I hereby move that the board adjourn into executive session for the purpose and consideration consideration of employment of a public employee or an official of the school district.
So, second.
Been moved and second. Roll call.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Otterman?
Yes.
Reverend Walker?
Yes.
Ms. Walsh?
Yes.
Mr. Alexander?
Yes.
Mr. Bravo?
Yes.
Mrs. Mansfield?
Yes.
Okay.